We are going to solve two math word problems using a problem-solving strategy called STAR. Each one of the letters in STAR is a step that we will use to solve the problem. So let's go ahead and look at the first word problem. Amy is going to buy some supplies for her students. The price of a 12-pack of markers is $12. The price of a 24-pack of crayons is $8, and the price of 40 glue sticks is $20. How much money will the markers, crayons, and glue sticks cost in total? Let's take a look back at our STAR sheet. Our first step is S. Search the word problem. This means that we're going to search the word problem for any important information, and then we will circle it. Looking back at our word problem, let's go ahead and look for any important information that we might see. $12 seems like something that could be important, so we should go ahead and circle that. $8 might also be important. Let's circle that as well. $20 seems like it could be important too. We should circle that. And finally, let's go ahead and circle in total. That seems like it might be important as well. Okay, so now that we have completed the first step in the STAR strategy, let's look at what our next step is. Our next step is to translate the words into an equation. So let's look back at our word problem. We can use the important information that we circled in the last step to help us make an equation. We are looking for the total cost of all three items, which means we are going to have to add the markers, crayons, and glue sticks together. So let's write out our important numbers. We have $12 plus $8 plus $20. Now that we have our equation, let's look back at what our STAR paper says. The next step in our STAR strategy is to answer the problem. So let's go back to our equation and see if we're able to solve it. Reading back at what our equation says, it says 12 plus 8 plus 20. Now, let's try and figure out what that equals. We know that 8 plus 12 equals 20. So that brings us to 20 plus 20 equals 40. Now that we have solved the equation, let's go back and look at the final step in STAR. The final step in STAR is to review the solution. So let's look back at our word problem. The total amount of money that Amy will spend on markers, crayons, and glue sticks is $40. Now that we have reviewed the solution, let's look back one last time at our star sheet. We started by searching the word problem. Then we translated the words into an equation. Then we answered the problem. And finally, we reviewed the solution. Now let's go ahead and use this same star strategy on a different word problem. So our first step in this next word problem is going to be to search the word problem. And as we did in the last word problem, we're going to look for important information and then circle that important information. So let's go ahead and read the word problem. A sports club had 557 members. 220 members left the club after a year. How many members does the sports club have now? So, looking at our problem, I see two important numbers. So let's go ahead and circle those. 557 and 220. Now that we have circled the important information, let's go ahead and look back at our star sheet to see what the next step in the strategy is. Our next step is to translate the words into an equation. Let's look back at our word problem again. The important information that we had is 557 and 220. We can use this information to help us turn this question into an equation. Because the question is asking for how many members does the sports club have now after 220 members left the year before, that means that we're going to be subtracting. So, we started with 557 members. We lost 220 members. So, what does that equal? Now that we had formed these words into an equation, 557 minus 220 equals question mark, because we're not sure yet. We are going to look back at our star sheet to see what the next step is. The next step in our star strategy is to answer the problem. So let's go back to our equation. We started with 557 members and we lost 220. That means that we have 337 members in the sports club now. Now that we have solved our equation and got our answer of 337 members, let's look back at our star sheet and see what the last step in our star strategy is. The last step in our star strategy is to review the solution. So let's go back to our word problem and identify what the question was asking of us. The question asked, how many members does the sports club have now? After subtracting 557 from 220, we determined that there are 337 members left at the sports club. Since we have finished reviewing the solution, we have now gone through both an addition and subtraction word problem using the STAR strategy for problem solving.